what to do when the sun is too hot. If you live in parts of the US or Europe or anywhere where the sun gets too hot, let's say above 90 degrees or 100 degrees in the summer regularly, then you're gonna need to help your plants, because sun that hot, in most plants will not do very well. So today, let's talk about how to protect your plants. Welcome to Self-Sufficient Urban Gardening. There are many ways of protecting your plants from the excruciating heat of the sun in the summer months. So what I have here is an example. This is just burlap that my neighbor had. He was going to throw it away, and I said, well, just hand it over and I'll use it as a shade cloth for my plants. So, you know, if the sun is too hot, and the plants, they get wilted and they get really sad, for example, during the day, let's say from 12 to 3 or 4 p.m. If the temperature is above 90 or 100 degrees, which is very common here in the valley where I live, in San Fernando Valley in Southern California, then the plants will wilt and be so sad that they're really not going to do photosynthesis, and they're not going to do anything during the day. So they're really going to enjoy the morning sun and then the late afternoon sun, but during the day, they will just be sad and will not produce anything or grow. So with many different options for shade cloths, like for example here, just free burlap that I got, this protects very well the plants. But this you have to be careful, because the amount of sun that it lets through is very little. There are different shade cloths that will let more sun go through, so you can get many different grades, 40%, 60, 80% protection. So these are many different options that you can have just to protect your plants during the summer months. Look at this example here. I have this shade cloth here protecting this raised garden bed, but for some reason the shade cloth doesn't cover all of it. And what I have here is butternut squash, and this is a type of vine. So the vine goes outside of the shade cloth here in many different areas. So you can see here in this location where the sun is really hitting straight, look how sad these leaves are. These are even burned because the sun was way too hot. So whenever the plants are sad like this, then they're really not going to produce anything. So first option is you need to give it some water. It will cool the temperature. Water also the roots of the plant will also help, so the plant can get more water, or really use the shade cloth. In this case here, the vines are just going out, and these are getting sad, but the ones that are more inside the shade cloth here, they're not as sad. So yes, the shade cloths will definitely help. For shading your garden, you really don't need anything fancy. So what I have here is a pine tree that my neighbor wanted to get rid of, and I just cut the tree in several pieces. You can see one here, one on the other side, and one over there in that corner. So 3 of these trunks here, they're coming from one pine tree that I cut down. And what I have here is my shade cloths, and I just tie them with some rope to the trunks, and that's it. It's pretty simple and easy, and this is really cheap, and this is, of course, the trunks were free. So shading the trees, your plants, doesn't necessarily have to be fancy, and it can be something that is easy and fast. Like for example, what I have here is this. So on the days that it's not too hot, I can just unwrap, and that's it. And the plants can get all the sun back again. Or if it's too hot, then I put it back on and we're done. So pretty simple and easy. Not only your garden plants need shade, some trees also need some shading because they may get really sad during the heat of the day. So this is a loquat tree, which is actually pretty sturdy and very resistant to the sun, but it's a young tree, very young tree. So I put this shade here because the top branches, the new branches that are coming out of the tree, come here, take a look. These little branches here that will become major branches later, they get really sad when the sun is too hot. So I'm also using here a shade cloth to shade this tree, at least for this summer when the plant is very young. So next summer maybe I'll do it again because this plant is probably only 2 years old. And then when the plant gets bigger, it will get more and more resistant to the sun as it gets older. So just for you to have an idea, we left this plant when we brought it in a pot. We left it in the sun, and look what happened to the leaves. They all burned. A lot of the leaves that we had here in this plant burned. Luckily the plant survived in the pot for the first few days when it was really hot. It was like more than 100 degrees. But I gave it enough water. I actually transferred it to a shaded area so it would survive, and it's actually doing pretty well right now. So yeah, the shade was important to keep it alive and to help it grow, because the full sun on a young plant was really hitting you hard. So under here, under this shade, it's probably 10 to 20 degrees lower the temperature than it is in the sun. So if out in the sun is in the 90s, under here it's in the 70s, maybe low 80s. So the plants really enjoy this here. I can feel the breeze down here. It's really amazing. Compared to the full sun, it's a different story. Now, a few plants really need shading. For example, butternut squash that I have here, and all that family, you know, pumpkins and cantaloupe, all these plants really, you really need to be careful after 90 degrees because the plants will really get really sad and not produce very well. So you really need shades. But obviously other plants like tomatoes, bell peppers, they don't need shade. They usually like full sun. Now, one thing that you have to be careful about is that some of these plants like bell peppers or even tomatoes, they can get burned by the sun. So if you're in places where it gets to 100 degrees often, sometimes it does here in Los Angeles, in San Fernando Valley, then your tomatoes will get sunburned on top. And my bell peppers also got sunburned many times. So shading in those situations is also advisable. Another way you can shade your plants is by using natural resources. So you can see here in this raised garden bed, I have blueberry plants. So they were, you know, getting burned actually by the sun. As you can tell, some of the leaves are pretty dry, getting burned. But what I have up top, and you can see back here, is a peach tree. And these peach trees are providing some shade for my blueberry plants. So you can plan your raised garden beds in locations where the sun is not gonna hit in the middle of the day because you have a tree, for example. My tree here is on the left side, so when the sun goes down that way in the west, then we're gonna get some a little bit more sun, and we also get some in the morning. But now during the hot part of the day, the tree is kind of shading these blueberry plants so that they don't get much sun at this time of the day. So natural resources like planting your raised garden bed near a tree to provide partial shade is also a good option. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and shade your garden instead of enjoy.